Hello, my name is Brayden McFadden, and my history of concussions is my first diagnosed concussion was probably when it all started, and it was when I was in fifth grade. I played football growing up. I played middle school, high school. In high school, we think, kind of hindsight, that I had a couple of micro concussions. So my junior and senior year, I kind of played through some. I just thought I had a constant headache my junior and senior year, and then I went on my mission to Alaska, and that's when the symptoms of all these micro concussions kind of caught up to me. I started getting really bad anxiety and panic attacks. And so for me, anxiety is different for everybody. But when I was experiencing it, it was like the best way I can describe it is if I was having a panic attack, it would be kind of like my thoughts would just start rolling and rolling. And usually you can kind of tap the brakes on your thought process and be like, okay, I just don't need to worry about this right now, just calm down. But for me, I couldn't, it was like a runaway train. Anxiety, I had never had anxiety in my life before. Only later did I realize that anxiety is a symptom of concussions, and it can be seen in people. And so I was having those all through the mission. I wasn't eating, so I lost about 25 pounds, 30 pounds. So I wasn't eating. The constant headaches were there as well that I had kind of experienced my junior and senior year of high school, but these headaches were a lot worse. It was very hard to sit still. I kind of had to move around a lot. I was very restless, very hard to focus. So when I came home from my mission, I saw a therapist at first because they thought it was just kind of the anxiety and depression was from just the mission and mission stress. And that therapist told me that the anxiety and depression that I had from my mission was based on stress from the mission. And then I tried to go back to BYU that winter semester. I started seeing a different therapist who was a family friend, suggested that my anxiety and depression might be from concussions and from head trauma. And so he recommended me to go see a chiropractic neurologist in Orem, who I went and saw him, and he ran some tests. And then with all those tests, he figured out that I'd had 4 to 6 concussions that were not necessarily major concussions, but that could have been micro concussions. And so one thing that he recommended I do was he gave me a bunch of uh, exercises like that. And then he also gave me this herbal serotonin supplement to take daily. And then I started taking that serotonin supplement, and it just fried my brain. I I remember my anxiety just got really bad after that, like really worse. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, like what should I do? I told them my whole history. And so the doctor decided I needed to be hospitalized until they could kind of figure out like if it gets serotonin supplement on my system, run some tests, kind of figure out what was going on. And it was while I was in the hospital that the psychiatrist at the hospital recommended that I take a medicine called Lamictal, which it's a mood stabilizer that they usually prescribe to people who are bipolar. But the psychiatrist, she also said that this also really helps people who have concussion-induced anxiety and depression. She said it works very well with their brain chemistry and kind of helps in a way that baseline anxiety medication and depression medication doesn't. And so I started to take that, and I started to feel a lot better. And then came back to my house, and then went and saw a neurologist who I don't remember what he talked about anxiety and depression wise, but I remember he did say that another possible symptom of concussions is ADD, ADHD, which could account for the fact that I was so jittery, couldn't hold still. And so he prescribed me Adderall for that. And so that was kind of the history of who I saw and what they recommended. So the things that helped the most when I was going through this was probably my family. I mean, they stayed by me. They helped me kind of ride this roller coaster, provided the moral support. And then one thing that I would have done differently, or hope would be done differently, is that I wish I knew more about concussions. When I was in high school, we didn't really talk about them. Our coach never talked about them. Our trainer never really talked about them. But they were definitely there, and we had guys that couldn't play because of concussions. But it was one of those things where unless it happened, they didn't really talk about it, and it wasn't really addressed. So that is something that I would have been nice to be able to have that knowledge to know. Okay, these are the signs. These are what to look for, and then I could have seen them in myself and been more self-aware. I wish that I could have had been more knowledgeable about the subject, had a little less of a stigma around it because sometimes with sports, if you get hurt, you just rub some dirt in it and keep going. But I wish that was something that was a little different, was that stigma was gone. And then yeah, but now I mean this happened back in 2016, 2017, so it was a while ago. Now I'm totally fine, brain's totally fine, graduated college, got a job. Nothing's really, it's not holding me back anymore. It's not something that's a major part of my life anymore. So that's kind of how it's been resolved.